going to start today by taking a look at squares and square roots. And it's important to know exactly what squares and square roots do. One thing we have to we want to do is differentiate squaring from multiplying and square roots from division. Squares and square roots are not the same as multiplication and division. Okay, they are related, just like addition is related to multiplication. That repeated addition is same as multiplication, but we don't say addition and multiplication are the same. When we multiply two numbers, the same numbers with itself, we say we are squaring, but the multiplication is different than squaring. So the way we want to understand squaring and square rooting is, squaring is taking a side length and we're going to make it into square area. So we take the side length of a square and we get area. Square rooting is the opposite. We take the square area, we square root it, we end up with side length. Okay. And squares and square roots will undo each other. They are opposite operations, or what we call inverse operations. And again, it's important to understand that although we can do squaring with multiplication, squaring and multiplication are different, and they behave different, and the math behind them act differently. Okay, so let's just practice doing some squaring and square rooting. So if I have an area of 25 centimeters squared, and I want to find the side length, I'm going to take the area and I'm going to square root it, and I'm going to get the side length. So if I have an area of 25 centimeters squared, what I can actually do is I can actually draw all 25 squares in here. And we can only do this with perfect squares, but I've got 25 squares in here, and I can see that the side length is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 long. So the side is going to be 5 centimeters long. And we can also do this by square rooting. If we square root 25, we end up with 5 centimeters. So we can do square root 25, and we end up with a side length of 5. There's my area. That represents my side. Okay. With 60, it's a little bit different because I cannot put 60 squares in here nicely because 60 is not a perfect square number. But I can take the 60 and I can square root it, and I can get a side length of either exactly square root 60 centimeters or approximately 7.745, so I'm going to round that to 75 centimeters. For 70 centimeters squared, I can do the same thing. I'm going to take the 70 squares, I'm going to square root it, and I'm going to end up with square root 70 centimeters, or approximately, as a decimal, if I put this into my calculator, I get 8.366, so I'm going to round that to 37 centimeters. And I can test this again by, I can multiply it by itself, or I can square it. And again, multiplying, although multiplying 8.37 times 8.37 gives us the same answer as squaring, it is slightly different than actually squaring.